Think about the last time you messed up. There is a sharp difference between the thought, I made a mistake, and the heavy, sinking feeling of, I am a mistake. That shift represents the moment an action becomes an identity. A temporary psychological ache hardens into a permanent flaw in your character. We rely on self-awareness, intelligence, and imagination to navigate the world. They are our highest evolutionary gifts, yet they are the exact architects of this psychological prison. When we suffer from this kind of shame, it isn't because our brain is malfunctioning. It happens because our most advanced mental capacities are operating perfectly, but running unchecked in a closed loop. This handwritten map charts exactly how that loop begins. We start with the mind's raw capacities, consciousness, intelligence, and imagination. To observe the world, these tools ask, what is, drawing a boundary that separates the watcher from the watched. This split is duality. It is a necessary structural hinge where a unified reality divides into two. You can think of this division as a seam. It's a functional, permeable boundary. It lets us have individual human experiences without actually severing us from the world. Making that first distinction is completely harmless, but drawing that line creates the exact conditions for a massive architectural error down the road. The trap springs when the observer turns around to look at itself. The moment the eye turns to see the eye, identity begins to stabilize. The eye congeals. Psychologist Carl Jung defined this stabilized eye as the ego. The ego is highly practical, giving us a necessary psychological surface to interact with reality. But because that eye has now become a solid surface, it has an exposed area. Outside forces and events can finally strike it. When those forces hit, we feel pain, and feeling pain is completely normal. It is just the natural friction of that original seam functioning exactly as it should. Pain is simply the inevitable tax we pay for having an ego. At this stage, the true psychological trap has not actually closed around us. The real danger arrives in the third loop. The mind notices its pain, but then it makes a critical error. It completely identifies with what it's noticing. The observation, I notice an ache, fuses into the belief, I am the broken thing that aches. This is the birth of reflexive shame. The surface of the ego learns to flinch at its own existence. Now, the mind enters a hall of mirrors. It desperately defends this newly hardened identity, treating the shame as an absolute, undeniable reality. The mind has taken the original, useful seam that separated the self from the world and mistaken it for a dense, impenetrable stone wall. The further down this recursive spiral we go, the more solid the illusion appears. A functional psychological tool gets weaponized into a delusional prison. But there is a structural flaw in this fortress. It isn't real. It is an optical illusion of the mind that we chose to build a house on. Looking back at the bottom of our handwritten map, we can see the diagnosis. When self-awareness is taken too seriously, the illusion rots into delusion. This aligns with Buddhist philosophy. A core insight of their tradition is that while conventional distinctions are useful, inherent separateness is an illusion. The conceptual I is not a solid object. It is just the verb to distinguish, actively pretending it's a noun. See the self as an action rather than a fixed object, and shame loses its grip. Shame functions as the mind's lingering memory of mistaking a temporary fold for a permanent scar. To escape this trap, you do not need to wage war on your own mind. You don't need to violently smash the glass in the hall of mirrors or destroy your ego. You only need to recognize that the boundary separating you from the rest of the physical world remains completely permeable. This permeable border serves as a meeting place. It is a soft border where experiences intersect and life actually happens. When the wall is recognized as a seam, the barrier dissolves into a point of connection. It stops being a dead end and reveals itself as the opening back into the world.